Justice Lee. Appreciate you all being here. I'm going to call the meeting to order. We have a quorum. And so, again, thank you all for being here, and thank you for a great workshop. We'll be talking about that shortly. Is that the first order of business is this: are there any corrections to the meetings as presented? Any corrections? Okay, if there are no corrections to the
Dana, I've lost sound.
Actually, I've lost Steve altogether.
I lost it too.
Yeah,
There he is.
yeah, sorry, I don't know.
Okay.
I think the internet went down for just a second. I apologize. And so can you all hear me now? Everybody
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Well, hearing no corrections to the meeting minutes, do I hear a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
I make a motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor, I think just raise your hand. Okay. All right. I see a quorum, a majority. And so the minutes have been approved as presented. And so the next item of business are the statistics in the agenda. And first off, Dana and Noel, thank you again for preparing the agenda and all of the attachments. Great job. I appreciate it very much. I would like to turn to those for just a brief moment. And again, I see that about 65% are resolved, and I'll let you go and flip through one by one, Dana, then. I'm not going to go over every one of them, but that number has stayed pretty much the same. And I can flip through with you is that the other number that I found interesting was, and I think you've got it in your packet, if you'll go on to the fee type, go to the fee type. The fee type, I'm always interested in Justice Lee. I'm interested in court ordered pro bono, 0.2%. And I know that I heard somebody in the Nashville area that say some of the judges sort of ask the participants if they want to participate. I'm not sure if that's somewhere between voluntary and ordered. But anyway, I'm going to see about meeting across the state again with the judges, et cetera. But I found that to be an interesting statistic. The next one is on the next page, then, Dana. Again, a number that sort of surprises me, because at the workshop, if you remember, one person talked to me privately and one person literally sort of just spoke up in the meeting and said, hey, I'm never going back in person. I'm staying physically present. And so, as you can see here, in person is about 61%. And I'm a little surprised at that. I thought that there might be others, but I get being physically present. But in any event, about 61%, that's about what it was last time. And then the next one, if you can move it to Dana, the one about, right here. There we go. In looking at this, obviously the bulk of mediations that are reported, and we know that we're concerned about underreporting, is that personal injury are 27%, and then domestic relations is another, 37 or so. And so I think that obviously this workshop focused on family and family matters, et cetera. I think I'm going to tuck in the back of my brain, and Dana, if you'll make a note too, that maybe we need to include something that this is just an idea that focuses on personal injury, because that number keeps rolling up as a significant number. And so does anybody else have any comments about the, Dana, thank you. We have about 1,500 listed mediators. And I'm going to be asking the Dana and Noel to give me a breakdown like I'd asked John Jefferson a number of years ago about the number of mediators, how many do X number of mediations. If you remember, we requested that, and John presented then a chart that said, I was surprised, like there were maybe 5, 10 mediators that did over 100 in a year. There were, well, you get the idea, to give us a breakdown of that. I'm curious about that number, and also by the professions. But anyway, those are the statistics. Any other comments about the statistics at this point, commissioners? Justice Lee or?
Steve, the one you mentioned earlier, the court ordered pro bono, I think it showed only 3 mediations that occurred, and in that very small percentage. I just wonder if that's an accurate number. I mean, maybe mediators in this group could weigh in on that. Have they had any personal experience with that? And is that number realistic? It doesn't really. It's hard to imagine there's only been 3 of those in the state.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to point it out. It was,
Yeah.
I know we've had at least, 3 or 4 on this end of the state at least.
Yeah.
And I think, Linda, our Rule 31 listed mediators are pretty prompt about filing their report.
I think that's very possible that the reports are just not getting filed.
Whoa, well.
Yeah. I mean, Linda, it's more than 3 in the state, right?
I think there was more than 3 in Memphis.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the number is probably not high enough, but it may be a reporting problem.
I think it is a reporting issue. That's what I think.
So
I think
maybe
it just doesn't happen.
And maybe that's the lesson we take from this, that we need to up our reporting efforts.
That is the lesson we're going to take from this. Thank you, Justice Lee. That's exactly right. Okay, Dana, I'm going to turn it over to you for the staff report.
Okay. I want to say for the workshop, I was talking to Marcus earlier. We had, according to our registration portal, we had 203 registrations. I think there's more than that, because at 10 o'clock the night before, I counted 195, and I do know the next day, I know we entered more than, 8 registrations. So I was really pleased. We are in the process of we sent out the survey. We resent it earlier today. The survey is at the end is how they certify for their CLE and their CLE. So it's a SurveyMonkey link. So we just sent that out again to everyone who registered, and as they come in, because it was available through the app and not everyone wants to download the app, which I completely understand. So we've made it available that way. If you get questions, it's going to take us about 30 days to gather all of the data and then post into the portal and then report to the CLE Commission. And then, yes.
Tell me this, how does that attendance compare to previous years? And do you have a breakdown between physically present and those appearing then online?
I do not know. I need to check. We have records, but we don't have a way to tabulate them. But trust me, since this is my first year, I will be seeing if I broke the record. I'm very competitive. And then I can tell you that it was about 75% were online. I know at one time during the middle of the day, I looked and there were 150 people signed on to the Zoom. And that was just about what it kind of was when we started on Friday morning. So that was kind of expected. Okay. And then we had some fluctuation where people wanted to come in person, but had things happen and they were happy that they could switch to Zoom. So, but yeah, it was majority Zoom.
Yeah, well, I think that's interesting information from the standpoint of next year. Even if we got all of this behind us, the question is, will we go completely physically present, or will we do hybrid again? And so I'm interested in that information. So thank you, Dana. Go ahead, Dana.
And then for today, we had 44 applications that were submitted for listing. And the committees have met and will report out and see votes on those. And then Another thing is we do have a new update on the ODR pilot. We are ready to move to phase 2 on a technical front. We have completed the statement of work. It's approximately $20,000 in technical upgrades and fixes. I want to give a shout out to our AOC IT team, Jennifer Williams and Ashanti Reed Hawkins. They worked on some really good markups and did a lot of the work. And then we sent it to our vendor, who's now changed to Catalyst. If you see that, it's usually been Matterhorn. They had internal changes and they're renamed to Catalyst. So if you see that, it's still the same people, just different name. And they got it back to us. So it is now in the chain to be approved by upper management. And then also, because we know that it's not going to be able to be something that can be rolled out by the end of our SJI grant, which is, of course, where we obtain our funding to improve the platform. I've already reached out to the director for the grant funding and asked if we could go ahead and seek an extension, or would we have to wait until the end of this current extension? He said no. So in the next couple of weeks, we will also be reaching out, go ahead and get an extension to March 31st, 2023.
One comment, you've got it on here. Linda Seeley and I were able to meet with a number of different hospitals and had a discussion with them at an event in which they were present. It actually was the clinics at the University of Memphis School of Law, and a number of them were there. And so we're hopeful that we're going to be able to engage one of them. So, okay, thank you, Dana. Go ahead.
All right, and I have one last thing, and trying to get ahead of the game, because I know at the end of the year, it's almost like we all stop and take a breather. I went ahead and proposed the 2023 ADRC meeting dates and times, and I made that as an attachment for you. I believe it's attachment 4, and then proposed application deadlines. So this is basically pretty much exactly where we're this year. It's just, you know, the days are off a little, but it's pretty much the same as it's always been. Meetings on Tuesday at 10:30 a.m. Central Time, and then the application dates are built in that way in order to give us enough time to then review the applications, get them prepared, get the committee meetings set, and the commissioners to review, make their decisions, and then prep for the meeting. So that's what we propose for this year, or for next year.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Dana. Committee reports, Cindy Ettengoff. I'm sorry, let me, it's Lori. Sorry, Lori.
No, so Steve, the first thing we have for committee reports is communications.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I've got it now. Yeah, Cindy. Cindy, are you driving? And
She was, so let me pick up for her. As you can see, according to the agenda, we had our third newsletter, which was published on August the 29th, and the link is there for anyone who'd like to click on that and read the newsletter again. And then for the workshop, we sent out multiple emails through MailChimp and then the registration portal we used. And then also, in order to engage our trainers, we sent, as you can see, we sent an email out with the registration link to them. I want to make sure that we try to reach people in different platforms, because some spam MailChimp, they don't release MailChimp and it goes to their spam. So we used our registration portal, which is called CVent, and MailChimp this time. And then because of the trainers, I sent a specific email directly to them, because all that.
Dana,
Easier.
I don't know if it's on my end or your end. I and others are having difficulty hearing you.
Me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. But so communications for this quarter was really focused on, we got the as you can see, the newsletter out, which focused mainly on the workshop. And then we sent lots of emails out on the workshop and specifically to the trainers as well. And then I will let you know this morning, I did send out I think I told you the CLE, the link so that they can certify their CLE and CME from last week.
Okay. Okay. Rule and Policy Committee. Betsy?
Yes, as you can see on the agenda, the only thing that I have to report is that we have suggested, recommended that the petition regarding the domestic violence training be sent to the Supreme Court for review and approval. And I think that attachment is number 5A and B to the agenda.
Okay, and I know the Training and Education Committee will be getting to that. Thank you, Betsy. Okay, Sarah is out of the country. She's in Portugal, I understand, vacationing. And so I was able to attend part of that meeting. And again, there was a discussion again about this bulk data collection. And again, that involves IT matters, Dana. And I know John Jefferson talked about that with her. And so I'm going to have to just simply defer that to your further discussion between the IT people. And so in any event, we'll do that. Dana sent me a note about voting. I was going to wait till we got the Training and Education to explain it, Dana.
Okay.
And make sure everybody understands then the petition. But in any event, there'll be a number of things going on with the Pro Bono Committee the coming year. And so, Dana, no grievances filed this quarter, right? Okay. Rick, let's turn to you.
So the Ethics Advisory Committee received a request for an opinion some months ago, which we reviewed and determined that it was not a Rule 31 mediation and therefore fell outside the scope of Section 9 of Rule 31. We issued an opinion, and then there was a re-request for an opinion arising out of the same set of circumstances. I am getting my cases right, aren't I, Dana?
Yes.
Okay. So basically, we knew it was not just a Rule 31 or not a Rule 31 mediation, but we also knew it was a hypothetical versus an actual scenario. So the committee reviewed the second request, which was largely a repeat of the first request, which also included some ethical issues that were more lawyer ethics than they were mediation ethics. We decided it was, again, outside the gambit of Section 9 of Rule 31. And so we issued a letter, a very short letter to the point, saying that we did not think it was proper to issue an ethics opinion under those particular circumstances.
Yeah, and the request came out of a mediation that was conducted in federal court,
Right.
which was not a Rule 31 mediation. Yeah.
Correct.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Marcus, your committee, Training and Education Committee.
Thank you, Steve. And I'd like to, again, thank you all the hard work of the AOC on the workshop and on the agenda, and also to all the commissioners on all the stuff that they have done. Looks like I got 4 items to address.
Actually, Marcus, you have another item to address, and that is you need to tell the rest of the committee that I told you that Tennessee was going to beat Alabama by a 3-point spread.
Yeah, we do have Nostradamus on our commission, and he was very accurate, and I appreciate that, Mr. Ladd. Thank you. So we have 4 items to go over real quickly. The first item is an update on training providers. It states on the agenda there are 17 approved Rule 31 trainers. Third quarter reports were due October 10th of this year. As of October 10th, 2 of the 17 providers have submitted quarterly reports. 22 persons participated in said trainings. Second item, the 2022 ADRC workshop planning. Subset A, the workshop was held on Friday, October 14th. And again, I would like to say, well done. I thought that the workshop went really well. It was offered in a hybrid format, in person and online. The workshop can be available for on-demand access, and I'll let Ms. Schmidt talk about that real quick. The factors to be considered are: question 1, will it be made on demand? 2, how long will it be available to access? And 3, what if any increase in fees should be determined? Dana, do you want to just add on anything else I read in regards to that paragraph about the workshop?
This is just a follow-up from the last quarterly meeting where it was discussed if the commission is going to offer this on demand. And there's 2 separate on-demand viewings I wanted to talk to you about. So we used a specific platform for the registration process last week. The thing with the platform was, in order to pay online, you had to leave the registration window and go pay online. So what happened was some people forgot to click to confirm their registration, and then they paid. So we had people who paid but didn't make sure they registered. And so, of course, on Friday morning, we were making sure we were sending out Zoom links. We know some people weren't able to get all of their hours because of that issue. So in speaking with Ann Louise, we just talked about making the on-demand for sure available to those specific people, because we don't want them not to get their hours because of a technical, basically, misunderstanding of how the process worked. We'd like to offer that in the next 2 weeks if they paid, and then we'll just make it available so that they can complete their hours. Now, for those who did not register but would like to take the workshop on demand, we can offer that. It was all presented in Zoom, so it's recorded and available to be made on demand. How that applies to us is all the hours are due technically by December 31st. So the question is, if you want to make it available on demand, do you want to make it run till December 31st, which we can do? And then, or do you only want to offer it for 30 days? It's up to you. And then, of course, do we want to charge an up fee for taking it after the fact? And I will tell you this, anyone familiar with entering CME credits, this is something we have to do by hand. So the longer we leave it open, the longer this will take for us to conclude. And so from, I guess, a staffing standpoint, if someone were to ask, why would you charge more? This does add extra work for those who did not take it when it was available and want to take it on demand later. So that would be the reason we pose, do you want to increase the fee for those who did not participate on Friday? And of course, on demand for mediation workshop is a little bit less interactive, of course, than if you had participated on Friday. So those are the pros and the cons, and the AOC will make it available based on what the commission wants to do with the on-demand training.
Thank you,
Any
Ms. Schmidt.
comments? Yeah. Comments? I think you're asking for comments, aren't you, Dana?
Yes, we just need a decision. Yes, do you want it on demand? How long do you want the on demand to be available? And do you want to increase the fee for those who did not take it when it was initially offered?
Well, I guess if they got till December 31st, I mean, the question is, do we cut it short or do we take it longer? I think that, what option? I think we just keep it open to December 31st. The amount of the fee, I'm hesitant to charge more, but only because, but I get it. When you say charge more, what does that look like, Dana? Is that another $5, $10? What are you talking about?
Well, for example, we do have a late fee. If you fail to renew your listing by December 31st, the late fee is $50. So anyone who submits a renewal application from January the 1st to March the 31st next year will automatically pay a late fee for $50.
Yeah. Do you know what the Tennessee Bar Association does? They have a lot of these on demand. I don't know if anybody else, I don't know if they charge, I think you said an up fee. I'm having a little.
I do not know about I do not know about the TV.
Well, tell me this, what would be your proposal regarding the up fee? Are you talking about $50 extra?
That's what I would propose.
Hey, Dana, may I ask
Yes.
a question?
Yes,
How much was it to register since we didn't have to pay? I don't know.
it was $150, and it's been
Okay.
that for a very long time. Yes,
Okay,
yes, and that's 6 hours CME, 5.5, as you know, CLE credit, and then 1 hour dual CLE credit. So
Dana, based upon what you know, would CLE credit be available for a program that is pre-recorded without the ability to interact with the providers?
and I would have to find that out. I
Okay.
think there may be a difference in the amount of credit you can get, Rick, because it is on demand. I'd have to double check for that.
She needs to check with the CLE commission because on Zoom, you can tell how long somebody was actually on the program. But like if they just walked away or they didn't answer questions, that's when the problems arise.
And I guess I'm with Steve on charging extra. What if somebody wants to get CLE credit who simply was unavailable on the day of the workshop? It seems like we might be penalizing people by charging them extra. As far as the cutoff goes, Dana, I believe you mentioned that you have to enter all that by hand, and I assume your deadline is going to be the end of December. Is that right, to enter it all by hand?
Well, yes. So everything that we have up until December 31st, yes, we enter by hand.
Okay,
And
I guess
then
my
if-
thought would be to end it before that,
Mhm.
such that you guys are not overwhelmed. I mean, maybe this is just a pure hypothetical, but so you're not overwhelmed with having to enter a bunch of data on the last day if people choose to wait to the last minute to watch that. And I mean, I don't know what that time is. Is it December 15th? Is it December 1? And again, it may be that you don't have that last minute rush, but I'd hate to have to put that on you all in effect on New Year's Eve.
Yes,
Well, let me ask you, Dana, do you have to enter it on December 31st? They just have to take it by December 31st so that when you enter it, you will say they took it by December 31st.
that is true. I will say from a staffing standpoint, Rick makes a good point though. And my experience from Friday is telling me that there's going to be a lot of emails and calls on that 30th and the 31st.
Okay.
Yep. So I would propose that at least you think about cutting it off maybe December 15th, because then there's still ample ways for mediators to get their credit. I will tell you that. I mean, this is a wonderful deal and it's a great, great training. But if they can't get it in, there's still ways if they're missing an hour or 2 hours or whatever.
Well, are you sure? Because I get emails, like on the last day.
Oh, yes.
Is there, where can I go to? And so we know they know about the ADRC workshop, because what I understand again is that if they do it on December 31st, they've met the deadline. It's just not entered yet. And so then you're telling me though, that if somebody who says, hey, I'm going to do it on December 31st, they've got a number of other places to get that accomplished other than the workshop.
Yes. The online portal has a section for CMEs and you can go in. I can tell you, I started the end of February this year, and of course, the final deadline was March 31st. I sent the link out many, many times a day for people who were looking for that 1 hour or short 2 hours. So yes, the website or the portal still has a place where they can go, and we load pre-approved CME courses all the time. So it's there that they can get them. Yes.
I want to make one last comment, I guess, and that's this, is that I'm okay either way, but this is our, a high water mark for us, our annual workshop. And it's something that we want as many mediators as possible to view, because we believe that certainly, and I'm sure the others are quality, but we believe this is a quality workshop that is very helpful to the mediators. And I literally know there are people that scramble on the last day. That's their problem. I know, to say, hey, I want to attend a workshop. And so what do others think anyway? So we got Dana, what do you want to do from a staff standpoint? Do you want to cut it off December 15th? Is that what you're saying?
I think, considering there's just 2 of us and there's, approximately 1,400 mediators, and not all of them will need their CME. But it would be helpful if we did cut it off early enough for us to start preparing, because we're working all the way along, and it would be good because it is at the holidays. So
I think 2 months worth of an opportunity to access it on demand is sufficient. And
Yeah.
I think I would go with the December 15th cutoff.
And
Okay.
I'll just mention, I happened to look at the calendar, and I think the 16th is actually a Friday. Maybe the 16th instead of the 15th, just to allow that entire work week.
Okay.
And that would still give you all 2 weeks to go ahead and enter that before the deadline comes up, even though apparently you can enter that after the fact.
You can, but from a stress level for the staff, it
Yeah.
reduces it greatly, knowing that, this is what the workload is at this time. This is how we prepare. And then for those who email after, there is still plenty of opportunity to make their deadline within 2 weeks.
Okay, so we
A
got
couple of days before. And it's usually people who are short an hour. Especially, I will tell you, it usually are attorneys who took an ethics class that they thought would cover their mediation ethics, and it's ethics on, how to keep your trust account in order. And then they find out that that's not going to be approved for mediation ethics. And they're like, what can I take? And then we direct them to the portal where we have basically a bank of training that's approved.
Well, let's go with December 16th. What about this up fee? How y'all feel about that? Let's hear some other voices on.
I would support what we've talked about so far, and with a $25 up fee, simply to encourage people to attend in person or via Zoom when it occurs, so that there's an incentive to do that, but not an overly restrictive fee if you couldn't do that for some reason. So I think $25 would be acceptable from my perspective.
I probably would tend to agree with Mr. Hill on that. There's 2 people there. I'd imagine that having at the this December 16th date would be suffice enough for everybody to get that done. And then Mr. Hill's right. There has to be a little bit of incentive to actually do it during the time that we offer, as opposed to on-demand options. So I agree with that.
Dana, is that okay with you?
That works for the staff, yes.
Okay, can I hear a motion then that we we make on demand a 20th annual ADRC workshop up to and including December 16th at a fee that's $25 above the registration fee? Do I hear that motion?
So move.
A second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand, one way or the other. Okay. All right, passed. Okay, Dana.
Okay, so I think, and Ms. Schmidt, thank you for that information. And she also stated in regards to what the workshop provided earlier when she stated that the provided junior education hours of 6 CME credits and 5.5 CLE credits and 1 dual CLE credit. And that's attachment number 7 for the commissioners following along. Third item on the report is the domestic violence training. 2 subsets here. The committee has written a final petition draft to be filed by the commissioners, and a unanimous vote was made to send it to the Rule and Policy Committee. Ms. Meadows has already touched on that, and I'll let Steve go into this in a second. But the proposed changes include increasing the training hours from 12 to 16 hours. And the committee understands, should the proposed changes be approved by the commission, that the Alternative Resolution Dispute Commission will petition the Supreme Court for a rule change to Rule 3114G. So, Steve, you want to expound on this point?
Hey, Steve, before you do, I think that we need to vote on whether we're going to send it to the Supreme Court. And I neglected to suggest that. I don't know if this would be a good time to do it.
Betsy, my thinking was this: we can do that. I wasn't sure if all the commissioners were fully informed about the purpose of this. And I thought we would hear from Chuck and others. I think we discussed it last time.
Correct.
Is there a need for any further discussion? Do you all understand then what the Training and Education Committee has requested? Chuck, you want to give just a 1-minute version of all of this so that we all know what we're voting on?
Sure. The existing 12-hour program covered a lot of information about the demographics involved with domestic violence, the frequency that it occurs in our society, how the courts deal with it, how the GALs or guardian ad litems are involved, a number of things, but was light on the issue of, as a mediator, what do you do differently than if you had not had a history of domestic violence in the case that you're working? And so we did some research trying to figure out, are there things that a mediator could learn to be more effective with in that instance? And we came up with a number of ideas, and that to incorporate those ideas took a little longer, and that's why the move from 12 to 16 hours for the training occurred. It wasn't just to lengthen out the training, but it was to incorporate some different factors that had not been required prior to our review. Does that help?
Yeah, yes, yeah. And so go ahead, Betsy, then. What sort of proposal do you need?
Well, I think it's just a vote on whether we agree to, or whether the petition will be filed with the Supreme Court.
Okay.
The petition as written. I don't think we've suggested any further edits.
No, we went through a number of drafts, and this is the final draft that was approved by your committee. And so I understand your committee, it's coming out of committee, but let's go ahead and get a second anyway. It's the committee recommends that we file the petition, which is attaches 5A and 5B, be filed with the Supreme Court for their review and consideration whether or not to Rule 31, Section 14, which section is it, Chuck? 14B?
14G.
14G. Okay, do we have a motion?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand one way or the other. Okay. Okay, the motion passes. It'll be coming your way, Justice Lee.
Thank you. And just for the benefit of the commission, the usual procedure is once we receive the petition, we review it, and if it's something we wish to pursue, which I think this is a given here, we put it out for public comment, which usually for 60 days, possibly 90, but this is not controversial. So I think it would be put out for public comment for a 60-day period, and then we would review the comments and then approve or disapprove. Are there any other provisions of Rule 31 the commission is considering changing? If there are, it would be helpful probably to put them all in one petition or file the petitions together or all in one petition, just because of the lengthy comment period.
Justice Lee,
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'll let any other commissioners speak. There are a number, but they're certainly not far enough along. They probably will not be submitted until mid-year next year at the earliest.
Oh, okay. All right, good. I just remembered there was some look at some potential revisions, but I didn't know how far along it was. Yeah, that's fine. I would say proceed with this.
Okay. Training
Okay.
waiver request.
All right, training waiver request. Looks like we have 4, and I'll read each one and then ask for a motion for a vote on approval or disapproval. The first applicant ID 161267, which is attachment number 8. Applicant is applying for family listing. The applicant is seeking a waiver of Rule 31 training requirements. Rule 3114. The committee met on September 22nd to review this application. The applicant produced training from a certified ADR trainer in the state of Florida that was completed within 6 years of the application. Based on that information, the committee determined that the training was substantially equivalent of that required by Rule 31, and thus the committee recommended approval. So as to the commission, is there a motion for vote for this applicant, for the committee's recommendation to approve this applicant?
Yeah, I move the approval of applicant number 161267.
Second.
Okay. All parties in favor of approving applicant 161267 for family listing, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
All right. So moved. Thank you. Next applicant ID 161243, which is attachment number 9. Applicant is applying for a civil listing. The applicant is seeking a waiver of Rule 3114 training requirements. The committee met and reviewed the application. The applicant produced a course completion document indicating completion of a 3-semester-hour mediation course and had been completed within 6 years of the application. The committee took that information in consideration and determined that the documentation met the waiver requirements. Thus, committee recommends approval. So is there a motion for vote in regards to the committee's recommendation for this applicant?
I move to approve applicant number 161243.
Second.
Okay. All parties in favor of applicant 161243 for approval of civil listing, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, third applicant. Applicant ID 161242. That's attachment number 10. Applicant is applying for a civil listing. The applicant is seeking a waiver of Rule 3114 training requirements. The committee reviewed this application. The applicant produced training documents from a training course taken in the state of California. After reviewing this information, the committee determined said documentation could not support a finding of substantial equivalent to that of the Rule 31's requirements. Thus, the committee requested the applicant to submit more information as to the content of the training course. So the committee recommends a defer situation at this time. So is there a motion for vote for the committee's recommendation of defer of this act?
I move we approve the committee's recommendation of deferral on this particular applicant.
Second.
Okay. All parties in favor of the committee's recommendation for this applicant 161242 to be deferred at this time, please raise your hand or say aye. Okay. And the last applicant for training waiver requests. Applicant ID 161239. That's attachment number 11. Applicant is applying for civil listing. The applicant is seeking a waiver of Rule 31 training requirements. Committee met and reviewed the application. The applicant produced training from a certified ADR trainer in the state of North Carolina that was completed within 6 years of the application. The committee determined that this application training was substantially equivalent of required by Rule 31. So the committee thus recommended approval. Is there a motion for the committee's recommendation?
I move to approve the committee's recommendation on applicant 161239.
Second.
All parties in favor of applicant 161239 to be approved for civil listing, please raise your hand or say aye. Okay, and those are all the training waiver requests, and that is my report.
Okay, thank you, Marcus. Appreciate it very much. Great work by your committee. Lori Reed, your committee.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Jan, good morning, Lori.
Okay, good. So today we have 44 total applications. We met on September 27th to review them. 39 are recommended for approval, and they are on your attachment number 12. And without going through each one, they start with applicant ID 161286, and they go for 3 pages and end with applicant 161075. And the staff and our committee have all researched these and have determined that that they meet our approval, and we are recommending that the commission approve. Do I have a motion for those 39 applications?
I move that we approve the 39 applications listed on
Exhibit 12.
Yeah, Exhibit 12 or attachment 12.
Yes,
I
Thank
second.
thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Is anyone opposed? Thank you very much. Now, there are 4 applications that were pending the committee for training. And since those have all, the commission approved the ones that the committee approved and deferred the ones, we won't need to address those. So the next applications are 4 which have a disciplinary history. And again, these, you've heard this before from our committee. This is, you know, a difficult situation. And so we review them carefully. And Dana has done an excellent job in getting follow-up from the applicants when necessary. So the first one is applicant ID 161288. That's attachment number 13. The person is applying for a civil listing. There's a disciplinary action noted on the law license disciplinary history. The applicant provided a response explaining the disciplinary history, and after reviewing the details, we have determined that we need additional information, and we are asking to defer this applicant until further information is provided. Is there a motion to defer?
I make a motion for this applicant 161288.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of deferring applicant 161288 for further information, say aye.
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 Is anyone opposed? Say nay. Thank you. The next applicant, number 161228, attachment 14, is applying for a dual listing with domestic violence designation. The applicant has formal actions noted on her license disciplinary history. She provided a response to assist us. We reviewed the details and determined there was sufficient information provided to determine that this applicant is suitable for the practice of mediation. We're recommending approval. Do I have a motion?
I move the approval of applicant 161228.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving applicant 161228, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, say no. Nay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Both that applicant and the previous applicant have the same ID number. Am I reading that correctly?
I believe that must be a typo because we did not have two.
No, one is
Thank you for catching that.
161288, the other is 161228.
Oh, yeah. I may have misread that. So those are two different ones. They just are similar. Thank you, Chuck, for keeping us honest here.
Yeah, they look alike.
They do. The next one is the applicant 161283, in attachment 15. This applicant is applying for family law listing. The applicant has disciplinary actions noted on the license, disciplinary. The applicant provided a response to assist us in making the recommendation. We reviewed the details and determined there was sufficient information provided to determine the applicant is suitable for the practice of mediation. We're recommending approval. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve this applicant 161283.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving applicant 161283, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Say nay. Thank you. The last one is applicant number 161287, found in attachment number 16. This applicant is applying for a family listing. There are formal actions noted on the license disciplinary history. This applicant provided a response to assist us in making a recommendation. We reviewed all the details and have determined that there was sufficient information provided to determine the applicant is suitable for the practice of mediation, and we're recommending approval. Is someone going to make it? I'll make a motion. I move that we approve applicant number 161287.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving applicant 161287, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Thank you.
Gosh, thank you, committee chairs. What great work that you do. And I know that, what we do is invisible until we get to this particular point, these committee meetings. So thank you for great work. I appreciate it very much. And it's important work that we do. The other thing is that in terms of the workshop itself, first off, Dana, again, you and Noel, oh my gosh, I don't know if you got any sleep or not, but I can't imagine how many hours and efforts you put into this. Beginning with, first off, I thought our accommodations at the Hampton Inn, those from out of town, were excellent. I absolutely want to know the name of the caterer The food was outstanding for the dinner. Those of you that couldn't make it, we're going to get the same caterer back, Dana. And I don't know who left with all of the food, but it was outstanding, I have to tell you. And everyone said, okay, let's take a plate home. And so those accommodations were great. This was the first time at Belmont. We need to thank Belmont. I intend to send them an email to the dean and others. And the Belmont, I was just, if you know, y'all were there, I was just blown away by that campus. And I thought the facilities worked very well for us. They had the IT people there. They worked very hard with us. I think they coordinated very well. It was just a great venue. And I think we'll probably consider them again. I know we have Lipscomb and Belmont now, but certainly Belmont was a great host, weren't they, Dana?
Yes, yes, they're wonderful to work with. Yes.
Yeah. And so the only thing is that somehow we'll talk about at some point, maybe changing the date of that. But for me, it's not the date so much. I'd rather leave at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I know we're not going to do that, but leave it at 5 o'clock to Nashville. My 3-hour trip back to Memphis, I got home at 9:25, 4.5 hours later. And there was no wreck, anything else. It was just the Nashville traffic. And so those of you that live in Nashville, well, gosh, I don't envy you your traffic. It was a great event. And I really enjoyed, and I know I've told you all this, I enjoyed meeting all of you, most of you for the very first time, person to person. And it was just, it just felt good. And it sort of, I felt like I'm hardwired. Maybe we're hardwired from babies on to actually see somebody present. But in any event, thank all of you for being there. It was a great event. And I heard so many positive comments. And I'm looking forward to next year, whatever date we choose. Dana has talked to me about possibly changing the date from October to August. I'm going to defer that to the Training and Education Committee on the January 17th agenda. And so we'll take a look at it then. I can only tell you again, what a great event it was. And so before I sign off, then Justice Lee, I don't know if you have any other comments. I know you weren't there. If you have any other comments you would like to make or to the commission.
No, thank you for a good meeting. This has been very productive. I appreciate everybody's work.
Great, thank you. Very good. Okay, Dana, I think we're ready to wrap it up.
All right. Well, you guys have a good week.